Service, just like that. A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, just like that. Lowest prices, just like that. No solicitation, just like that. Buying or selling, just like that.
For all your gold and silver need, call the Patriot Trading Group at 800-951-0592, just like that.
Hey, Larry Elder here. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt and KHNC.
Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Testing, 1, 2.
Good morning, guys. What's going on today? So, it seems as though I cannot get the microphone in the boardroom to function for me. So, I'm going to be riffing it from within the studio. So, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the CDC has re-released their guidelines for school reopening. And my goodness, it sure does seem to align with Joe Biden's agenda, which, my goodness, sure does seem to align. Sure does seem to align with the teachers' union's agenda. Now, I don't think it will come to as a surprise to anyone that teachers' unions, and this goes for almost any public sector unions, has a tremendous pull over our politicians. Why, it's almost as though these public sector unions are taking part in electing the very employers that they're negotiating their contracts with. It's almost as though the American government has this revolving door of legislators and lobbyists who go into legislation, into lobbying, into legislation, into lobbying indefinitely. And this is why I believe in term limits. It really is one of the primary reasons why I believe in term limits. Because if a politician, and when I say term limits, I should refine that. I should bring that back down to term limit. I think politicians should only be able to run for a single term. Why is that? Because when they're running for multiple terms, then they spend their entire term preparing for their re-election. All of the decisions they make are in an effort to gain the support of the lobbyists who will fund their next campaign. And everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. But I want to bring it back to teachers' unions, because the teachers' unions are essentially holding our students hostage. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is there are no scientific reasons as to why the schools should be closed. It's pretty obvious that the schools are not a chief vector of the virus. It's pretty obvious that children are not at a significant risk of dying from this virus, or even getting severely sick from this virus. There's not any significant evidence that teachers are contracting coronavirus from students. In fact, I haven't heard of a single case to where teachers were contracting the virus from their students. Have you? Have you heard of a single case in which teachers contracted the virus from a student? I haven't. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show right here on KHNC. I'll be right back after the break.
Triangle Cross Ranch, a Christian-based family ranch community, has the availability for more ranchers to join the family. We accept adults over 18 years old with cognitive disabilities. If you have a friend or loved one who wants more independence in a Christian ranch home, contact Triangle Cross Ranch at 970-454-2219 or 36049 County Road 51, P.O. Box 727, Gailton, Colorado 80622.
If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animated contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsel nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains be set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were ever our countrymen. Samuel Adams.
This is Sam Shook, Navy Vet and Medicare Specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me at 970-413-4939. Again, thanks KHNC listeners.
1360 KHNC is proud to announce our partnership with My Kind CBD, a local Colorado-based company that uses no pesticides, no herbicides, completely organic, all their products are CAO certified. That's right, independently lab certified. Our prices are the best in the country. Go out to 1360khnc.com and hit the shopping cart button. and make your purchase today.
欢迎收听 KHNC 广播电台 Bucky Dillon 早安秀，大家的早安广播，谢谢。
So how do these legislators end up going to work for the very industries that they were supposedly regulating? And why is it that these large industries, these large businesses, are often lobbying for more regulation? Why is it that you see McDonald's and Walmart and Amazon all pushing for a federally mandated $15 minimum wage? Do you think they're doing it because they care about people? Do you think Nike and Amazon care about people? Or do you think they care about money? Well, $15 minimum wage is expensive. Why would they want that? Well, they could just do it, right? All of these big businesses could just do it if they wanted to. It's not about doing it. The reason they make a big political fuss about it, but they don't implement it, is because they want the government to cram down that policy on their competitors, because these businesses have massive profit margins. They're able to buy in bulk. They're able to pay for foreign countries to do their manufacturing or whatever it is. And if they can cram down a $15 minimum wage on the mom and pop shops, they can absorb the cost, and the mom and pop shop can't. So essentially what you have is, yes, it may be more expensive for them to pay their employees, but then they get to form a monopoly in all these towns and cities where they destroy their competition, and then they can raise their prices because the lack of competition allows them to do so. And nowhere does a lack of competition hurt things more than in public sector unions. This is why Ronald Reagan likened government programs to the closest things to immortal beings, immortal entities, because you can't you can't shut them down. The harder they fail, the bigger they get. The answer is always the same. Well, if only we had more money, and it's taxpayer money. And so these public sector unions, these teachers unions, they spend millions of dollars on political campaigns. More than, I mean, they're essentially exactly the same as any other corporate lobbyist. They're among the top campaign contributors of any group or anything outside of an individual, which is where most political money comes from, is from corporate PACs and unions and other forms of corporate lobby. We have a situation to where these teachers unions not only are contributing millions of dollars to political campaigns, to political advertisements, but they also are responsible for educating children. So you could see why politicians would want to cozy up with the teachers unions. They're not going to upset the teachers unions, because not only are they going to fund their campaigns, but they're going to get their message out to the country's up and coming generation. And even Democrat presidents from the past have railed against public sector unionization because of the very way that it corrupts politics, that it corrupts politicians, because you have this conflict of interest. So think of it. Have you ever seen that those little objects that people hold on their desk that have the 4 little steel balls that are all hanging by little wires, and you lift one and you drop it, and because of the kinetic energy, the balls just keep knocking back and forth indefinitely? That's essentially what we have. With on one end having the teachers' unions or public sector unions, and on the other end being political corruption, right? The public unions make campaign contributions to the politicians. The politicians then negotiate with the public unions better pay, better benefits, better pensions. And then you have this vicious cycle of the teachers unions now using those increased funds to turn around and continue funding each other. I mean, it's like a human centipede. It's a circular human centipede of disgusting corruption. I want to read you guys an article coming actually from the Hill. According to the most recent Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC data, 360 Americans under the age of 24 have died from COVID-19 as of September 2nd. In total, there are 100 million Americans under the age of 24 in the United States. This means that the odds of an American under the age of 24 dying from COVID-19 is infinitesimally minuscule. In fact, an individual under the age of 24 is much more likely to die from a lightning strike than COVID-19. In fact, for people under the age of 20, any regular flu virus is significantly more deadly, which begs the question, why are the overwhelming majority of schools in the United States closed if students are practically invulnerable to COVID-19 and teachers are not catching COVID-19 from students in any significant way? Because teachers' unions and their political allies are holding America's students hostage in a devil's bargain for more money and power. On July 24th, the American Federation of Teachers, the president, Randy Weingarten, said, "Let's stop the debate about whether safety matters and start rolling up our sleeves so we get the resources to meet the needs of students, whether we are teaching remotely or in person." My goodness, here. So what do they mean by that? What do they mean by so we can get the resources to meet the needs of students, whether we are teaching remotely in person? Well, they are, of course, referring to political favors. That's what they really want. They want more money and more political favors. Unlike Weingarten's statement, which requires some reading between the lines, many teachers' unions are much more explicit with their outrageous demands, which have nothing to do with protecting teachers or students. For example, the LA Teachers Union's list of demands includes implementing a moratorium on private schools and charter schools, defunding the police, increasing taxes on the wealthy, implementing Medicare for all, and passing the HEROES Act, which allocated an additional $116 billion in federal education funding to the states. So, hey, at least the LA Teachers Union is honest. Like it or not, America's teachers are essential workers. Grocery store clerks, gas station attendants, and a whole host of other essential workers have braved the pandemic. Why shouldn't teachers do the same? It's downright pitiful that America's teachers are flat out refusing to do their jobs unless they are showered with more resources, as Weidengarten put it. Yes, it is doubtful that the teachers' unions' dereliction of duty would work if they were not so cozy with the left-wing politicians. For decades, the Democratic Party and the teachers' unions have engaged in a corrupt relationship in which teacher unions flood the party with so-called resources in return for salary increases, spectacular health benefits, and remarkable retirement packages. Yet it seems as if the teacher unions might have jumped the shark this time. As Americans look to get back to some semblance of normalcy after the spring and summer shutdowns, the last thing they need is teachers refusing to return to the classroom. And that makes sense because people can't return to work if they can't do something with their children. If their children can't go to school, they have to stick around and watch their children or try to facilitate some kind of daycare arrangement, which has its own complications. On the other hand, the refusal of teachers' unions to allow their members to perform their job might also be the very best thing to happen to the American education system in a long time. It would be ironic if teachers' unions' outrageous demands during the pandemic actually led to their downfall by making American parents aware of the fact that teachers' unions are not concerned with the best interests of their students. Could the greed of the teachers' unions at this precarious point in time be the kryptonite that causes their downfall and opens the door to unfettered school choice in America? Gosh, I sure hope so. Thomas Sowell released a book when he's 90 years old. He released this book called Charter Schools and Their Enemies. And essentially, the premise of this book is that charter schools are significantly better at educating children than the public schools. And they've proven this by comparing schools in the same area with the same demographics of students, both economically, racially, and other things, often in the same building, comparing charter schools and public schools, and found that the charter schools performed demonstrably better in almost every way. He issues a stunning indictment of the traditional public school system, teachers' unions, and the politicians who will face political consequences if they defy the incumbent powers. He masterfully analyzes the educational outcomes of low-income students who go to charter schools compared to their similarly situated peers in traditional public schools. By the end of the book, the reader is left outraged at the injustice done to ordinary students by those in power. Sowell points out that while only 10% of the traditional public schools he studied had a majority of students passing at the proficient level on the math exams, 68% of charter schools achieved that level. When it comes to the English test, the numbers are 14% and 65% respectively. This is regrettable because students who are not provided a quality education when they are young may never gain the marketable skills necessary to compete for a well-paying job later in life. You're listening to The Bucky Dillon Show right here on KHNC.
Hey all, I'm Lee Turner Jr. of Tango Firearms Training, inviting you to join me on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock for my show, Don't Be a Victim, right here on KHNC 1360, The Roar of the Rockies.
Have you always wanted to be on the radio? Do you have strong opinions or ideas that you think should be heard? Why not host your own radio show right here on the Roar of the Rockies? You'll be on the same station as Brian Kilmeade, Michael Savage, and Alex Jones. You can brand yourself as an expert in your industry and grow your business. Imagine telling your potential clients you have your own radio show. That gives you instant credibility. For more information, call us at 970-587-5003.
Did the insurance company divorce your mountain house? Then call Affordable Tree Service North at 970-568-6898. We have over 50 years combined experience in fire mitigation. Let us climb, cut, trim, haul your worries away. We know brokers who specialize in mountain property, and we don't hire no snowflakes. Oh, God. Hey, you're not in this commercial. Again, call Affordable Tree Service at 970-568-6898. That's 568-6898.
I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and I would like to encourage everyone to make sure they are prepared financially as the Federal Reserve continues to destroy the value of the dollar. Since the closing of the gold window in 1971, the Federal Reserve has led the way in the explosion of debt and the devaluing of your money. They openly say that they need 2% inflation, which simply means they hope to devalue your money, and they want to do this every single year, year after year. I know it's hard to understand, but the Federal Reserve believes in prosperity through debt and growth via the devaluation of your future. To learn more about how to protect yourself, visit us at allamericangold.com or call us at 800-951-0592 and protect yourself against the devaluing of your money.
Reasons to own gold. Reason number 1.
Culturally, the golden rule is treating others as you want to be treated. But financially, the golden rule is those that have the gold make the rules. When you retire, make sure you can write your rules. Call the Patriot Trading Group at 800-951-0592 or visit our website at allamericangold.com.
My name is Dwayne Brothwell. Listen to my show, Mystery Babylon, every Sunday, 11 a.m. I will show you how the birth certificate image of the beast binds you to Babylon the bank for the debt money we use to buy and sell with. That's every Sunday, 11 a.m.
The Bucky Dillon Show is a Liberty Revolt Media production. www.libertyrevoltmedia.com. If you guys want to learn more about the comparisons of the charter schools and the public schools, you can check out some of the past episodes I've done on that, where I really break down the numbers on those issues. One of those episodes was strategies for inner city success. Another one of those episodes was a case for school choice. I think you can search all of these on the YouTube page, youtube.com/Liberty Revolt. I'm live streaming now, and I'm engaging in the comment section during the commercial breaks. So if you want to just send a comment to me live during the show, you can right there, youtube.com/Liberty Revolt, and you get to see my beautiful face. Lucky for you guys. But I'm just going to give you guys another example about how the teachers' unions corrupt politicians. And I'm going to use America's favorite mayor, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Everybody loves this guy, right? In New York City, the United Federation of Teachers struck a deal with Mayor Bill de Blasio. They agreed that teachers would only return to the classroom if the mayor promised to reclose schools if the city's COVID-19 positivity rate, the percentage of tests coming back positive, hit 3%. The positivity rate inevitably rose above that low 3% bar, and schools were promptly closed down again. If science had actually been paramount to this decision, it would be important to note that the citywide positivity rate was 3%. The positivity rate within the schools themselves was only 0.15%. There was no actual scientific reason to close the schools down again. But far more influential than scientific considerations are raw politics at the expense of children's education. Unfortunately, these decisions to keep schools closed have had far-reaching consequences, such as increased mental health challenges, decreased educational quality, and added stress on families that may have no stay-at-home parents. However, this evidently is of no concern to the leaders of the teachers' unions because it is not their job to represent children. It is the job to represent only their due-paying members. And this is where the problem lies. Milton Friedman really broke it down that the only way for teachers' unions to actually protect the wages of any unionized organization of workers is to restrict the jobs available. There is no way in which a union can simultaneously increase the number of jobs and the pay of its unionized workers. The law of demand in economics is inescapable. You cannot get out of it. Raise the price of anything and fewer people will buy it. And this is another one of the problems you have with unions more broadly, is how do you make the value of your worker more? By having fewer workers who are available to do the job. And so that is what these unions try to do. That is why they try to shut down. This is why the public schools try to shut down the charter schools, because they don't want to compete. Competition drives the price down. And this, it's very simple. You want competition in what you're purchasing, and you want a monopoly on what you're selling. Same thing with licensure laws. This is why you have giant lobbies trying to say, under the guise of public safety, we need to have licenses to operate certain industries. And if, for example, in New York, it can cost tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to start operating a taxi. Now, of course, innovation, a remarkable thing, has blown that apart with the Uber and Lyft and other services like that. But for a long time, I mean, immigrants used to come to this country and you could buy a used car, slap a sign on the side of it, and you're in business. You're a taxi. Now you have to get the right licensure, and it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes. And so people can't just start a taxi business. And the people who are pushing this are actually the big taxi businesses lobbying politicians to enforce this licensure regulations that give them a monopoly. And it's the same thing in so many other areas. That's the reason it's illegal to sell raw milk in the United States. Europe laughs at us. They say, land of the free, you guys can't even drink raw milk. But in 2010, simultaneous raids of 2 different facilities in California were conducted to arrest those dealing in restricted substances. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, gosh, drug raids happen all the time. It's one of the many ways that the government protects us from harmful black market substances, right? Yes, these black market dealers were dealing in the dangerous substance of raw milk. And Californians were eagerly purchasing this milk, but good thing that our friends in the government could raid these facilities and save these adults from the dangers of raw milk, heavily armed at the point of guns. Why? Well, it's because they say unpasteurized milk has the potential for pathogens, has the potential for bad germs and bacteria that can make you sick. Well, human beings have been drinking milk for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Pasteurization only occurred in recent memory. The reason why you have this lobby, the reason why you have these regulations is because the massive milk industry has big players at the top that wants to have a monopoly. And the profit margins are very slim per unit. And they don't want to have to compete with small farmers. So anything that they can do to crush small farms, and this happens all the time. This is where our lefty friends go wrong with the idea that the government should just regulate things to make things better, is often they regulate things to create monopolies, which makes things worse. I thought the left was against monopolies. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show.
Do you ever wake up and feel like there should be someone to run your errands? We want to get things done, but just don't have enough time. Many of us hire concierge services like dog walkers or food and grocery delivery. Why should your insurance needs be any different? At Badger Insurance Advisors, we act as your concierge for all things insurance, pairing quotes and prices, and recommending the best insurance for your needs. Call or text us today at 303-359-1799 or check us out at badgerinsuranceadvisors.com.
Hi, this is Mike Morris, owner of Warriors Revolution Tactical in Longmont. At Warriors Revolution, we have the largest selection of tactical gear and ammo in northern Colorado. But what many people may not know is that we now sell firearms. And even despite the recent run on firearms and ammunition, we have plenty of product in the store, including ARs, AKs, Glocks, SIGs, HK, and more. And don't forget all the bulk ammunition at the best prices in town. Need to do a private firearms transfer? We can do that too. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and our team is made up of veterans and security experts, not a bunch of salesmen. Our team is trained and fought with much of the actual equipment we sell. And one thing you should know is that we support the foundations and principles this great country was founded upon. So if you need tactical gear, ammo, firearms, AR parts or upgrades, and even survival accessories, stop by and visit us on Ken Pratt Boulevard and Bowen Street in Longmont, or visit warriorsrevolution.com. That's warriorsrevolution.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anita Chandra with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. To keep your family healthy and safe, it's important to be ready if disasters happen. Develop a family communication plan. Make sure your family, including your children, know how to reach each other. Make a kit with first aid supplies, medicine, medical records, and comforting things for your child. Finally, talk about what to do when emergencies happen, like streets flooding, a power outage, or a fire. For more, visit healthychildren.org.
Great minds think alike. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt. Join me, Larry Elder, today at 5 on 1360 KHNC. Now back to Bucky Dillon.
So why are public sectors unionizing, public sector unions so dangerous? Well, it's a clear-cut and blindingly obvious case of a conflict of interest. The government is supposed to provide services to the people in a cost-effective way, providing what's necessary while extracting the least possible amount of money out of the taxpayers. But the goal of a union is precisely the opposite: to extract as much money as possible out of the organization that it feeds on. In the private sector, unions actually do work to some extent because there are built-in checks on the union's power. The company has to stay in business. Although this is something that I say my trip to Detroit would contradict, seeing that in a very large way, it was the automotive workers unions that made these companies uncompetitive with the assembly line and factory workers of other countries such as Japan, China, and Mexico. And a large part of the reason why Motor City was hollowed out is because the unions for Ford and Chrysler and GM and Dodge all became too powerful in Detroit and crushed their competitiveness, and then they lost all their jobs. And isn't that one of the key goals of the unions, is to protect job security? Well, it does for its union members, but it does not protect the company from going out of business and cutting jobs when they can no longer compete with the cheap labor that the labor is often outsourced to. The business or industry in question needs to stay successful in order for the private sector unions to stay successful. But in the public sector, the organization that the union is feeding off of is the government itself, funded by the taxpayers, the very people whose money they're supposed to be spending frugally. The union goal of enriching its members is in direct opposition of the government's goal of not bankrupting the taxpayers and the nation. Of course, bankrupting the nation is precisely what these public sector unions are currently doing. Cities and states nationwide are drowning in hundreds of billions of dollars of debt and unfunded liabilities, consisting largely of absurdly generous and entirely unrealistic public pensions. The other reason that private sector unions can, in theory, work is that the two parties in the negotiations are actually two separate parties with opposing goals. The union wants to consume as much of the company's profits as possible, whereas the company wants to give the union as little as possible. In contrast, public sector unions consist of government employees negotiating with other government employees, all of whom want to increase their pay as much as possible at the expense of the taxpayers, who have no voice in these negotiations. The emergence of powerful public sector unions was by no means inevitable. Prior to the 1950s, as labor union lawyer Ida Klaus remarked in 1965, the subject of labor relations in public employment could not have meant less to more people, both in and out of government. To the extent that people thought about it, most politicians, labor leaders, economists, and judges opposed collective bargaining in the public sector. Even President Franklin Roosevelt, a friend of private sector unions, drew a line when it came to government workers. Meticulous attention, the president insisted in 1937, should be paid to the special relations and obligations of public servants to the public itself and to the government. The process of collective bargaining, as usually understood, cannot be transplanted into the public service. The reason, FDR believed, is that a strike of public employees manifests nothing less than an intent on their part to obstruct the operations of government until their demands are satisfied. Such action looking toward the paralysis of government by those who have sworn to support it is unthinkable and intolerable. Roosevelt was hardly alone in holding these views, even among the champions of organized labor. Indeed, as the first president of the AFL-CIO, George Meany believed that it was impossible to bargain collectively with the government. Courts across the nation also generally held that collective bargaining by government workers should be forbidden on the legal grounds of sovereign immunity and unconstitutional delegation of government powers. In 1943, a New York Supreme Court judge held to tolerate or recognize any combination of civil service employees of the government as a labor organization or union is not only incompatible with the spirit of democracy, but inconsistent with every principle upon which our government is founded. Nothing is more dangerous to public welfare than to admit that hired servants of the state can dictate to the government the hours, the wages, and conditions under which they will carry on essential services vital to the welfare, safety, and prosperity and security of the citizen. To admit as true that government employees have power to halt or check the functions of government unless their demands are satisfied is to transfer to them all legislative, executive, and judicial power. Nothing would be more ridiculous. The very nature of many public services, such as policing the streets and putting out fires, gives government a monopoly or near monopoly. So striking public employees could therefore hold the public hostage. And that's exactly what these teachers' unions are doing. That's exactly what these teachers' unions are doing. They are holding public education hostage until they get all these cozy benefits out of the government. And they funded Joe Biden's campaign and the campaigns of many of the Democratic legislators. So it's this perverse relationship.
It is not because men have made laws that life, liberty, and property exist. On the contrary, it is because life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that men made laws in the first place. What then is law? It is the collective organization of the individual right to lawful defense and punishing injustice. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
Hi, folks. I'm James Morgan, a realtor with Grisham & Associates, LLC. I know it must seem like there's a million realtors out there making all kinds of promises. Want to hear my big marketing promise? I promise honest and fair dealings with all those I do business with. That may sound old-fashioned, and it is not very catchy, but it is true. I am your Colorado real estate specialist. Farm land, mountain cabins, or urban dwellings. When you work with my team, we'll get the right property for you and be upfront and honest with you every step of the way. Over the years, my clients have told me just that fact alone separates us from others in the industry. If you are considering buying or selling real estate, call me, James Morgan, at 720-203-0731 or visit my website at coloradoproperties.online. No catchy slogan, just a client-first, honest real estate experience. Hit it, girls.
Keep listening to the American Freedom Network.
This is Sam Shook, Navy Vet and Medicare Specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me at 970-413-4939. Again, thanks, KHNC listeners.
All of the music for the Bucky Dillon Morning Show was provided by my band, Beer for Bears. Find us on social media by looking for Beer for Bears.
And it's as simple as that. Public sector unions are helping to elect the very government institutions that they are negotiating with, and the incentives of both the government employees and the unions, which are the public sector unions, are government employees, is to maximize their profits against the taxpayer. And we have given them the power to hold essential industries hostage in the pursuit of accumulating their agenda. So hopefully this is a wake-up call. Hopefully people are seeing it. I mean, anyone who can't send their children to school, and now their idea of what it's safe to send children back to school, because now it's corrupted the science itself. We all have seen, especially on this station, the failures of the CDC to promote the science. They haven't promoted the science. They've promoted the agenda, the agenda of those who pay them. Whether it's the WHO and their relationship with China, which, by the way, China put out a news headline today touting that WHO investigators went to Wuhan and they didn't find any evidence that it came from the Wuhan lab. Oh, okay. Yeah, it only took a year for China to let them in there. A year after the fact, after they cleaned up the mess 11 months ago, right? And then, of course, the WHO investigators could only go where the Chinese Communist Party wanted them to go. It was a total Potemkin Village-esque arrangement. Hey, look at this. Look, hey, don't go in that room. Come look at this room. Right? Where everything was pre-prepared. Give me a break. That is such a joke. And it's the same exact thing with the CDC, who have been, and Dr. Fauci, who've been flip-flopping on every position. Excuse me. Sorry, not Dr. Fauci. Second greatest doctor in the country, only second to Jill Biden, of course. Dr. Fauci, who has been so consistent, so correct. He's always stuck with the science, right? But now the CDC is putting out their new guidelines to when they think schools could be reopening. After like last week, they said that there was no scientific or medical reason to keep all the schools closed. Now they've come out and determined that, well, actually, we should keep the schools closed. And gosh, their markers to when we can open the schools sure do look a whole lot like Joe Biden's, which sure do look a whole lot like the teacher unions markers for when they should reopen. Man, it's almost like they're all buddy. It's almost like they're all getting funded by the taxpayers. And it's almost as though that they're willing to hold essential services like education and the economy hostage until they get what they want. Maybe the answer, as Bernie Sanders proposes, is more government control. Gosh, wouldn't that be great? Because they use it so wisely. Man, our government, they're just really working for us all the time. Guys, this show is sponsored by Jerry Axum at Sears Real Estate. If you're interested in buying and selling real estate, contact my friend Jerry. Also, check out the website 1360khnc.com/shop. Get yourself some CBD products. It's great to be with you guys today. I'll see you tomorrow.
.1360khnc.com has CBD products. Click on the shop button and get yours today.
Just go to 1360khnc.com/shop. The CBD on our website is 99% pure, all natural, no pesticides, non-GMO, is grown organically right here in Colorado, and is 100%